Hello, and you're listening to the AI Moment with me, Jonathan Wagstaffe.
And me, Danny Denhard.
Dan, this week I think we're going to look at. There's an old adage in technology which says that almost always, when there's a major step change, we overestimate the short-term impact of that technology change, and we underestimate the long-term impact. I think what we want to talk about today is maybe some of those overestimations of what's actually happening at the moment, what's being demonstrated versus what's really achievable. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, completely fair. Where we should sort of dive in is there are some incredible demos that are live online, which means that you can see some incredible visuals. You can see movie-like trailers that have been all created by AI. But one of the things that most people don't realize is they're very expensive to make and they're very difficult to make as well. So anything that you see online, almost all of it is taken many, many hours and cost a lot of money to create. How I've been talking to people in the industry and playing through myself is even if you're given the prompt that people use, it will often look very different to what you've already seen. And this comes back to the meta prompting, where you ask AI to give you a prompt and then you prompt it. What I've seen is, and I've experienced it a lot, is how different they look to what someone else has already been made with exactly the same prompt. And if you tweak it slightly, it looks very, very different. So it's still difficult and technically difficult to really deliver something that people want to use and see. I'd say that what people don't realize is the technical skill is still very high, which means even if you're a developer, you still have to have very good skills in order to make something work. So a lot of the demos are amazing, and some of which is possible if you spend a lot of time on it. Someone like me who has tried to vibe code, which is where you use Claude or very specific tools to create your own app or create your own website, it's great, but it doesn't connect you into the back end. So I still have to ask someone very technical to help me with that, or do a lot of prompting or Googling to understand that. So one example I used very recently in a workshop was if I'm trying to build and I've got this use case, very specific use case, my partner and I, we can have like a really specific example between us and our dog, basically what our dog does, any movements, because he's a cockapoo. So he's got very different allergies. So we have an Apple note that we share. If we built an app and then wanted to share it online, we could do that and we could vibe code it. But the problem in doing that is it might just be a use case that we have and no one else in the world will use. So it's great between us. But then if there's 100 or 1,000 people willing to download that, they can. And what this will mean is, I've said it a lot, there's going to be micro apps that are created and it will be fairly low cost and it will be fairly frictionless. But all of these really niche cases are going to be sort of bubbled to the top. They'll be released. And then actually what will happen is many people will realize how expensive it is to run an app. So businesses could do something similar and could create really specific web apps or apps to do this. But it's really important that we call out that it takes a lot of time, takes a lot of effort, and it still has fairly high costs connected to it. If I was vibe coding an app, you'd still need a go-to-market strategy. You'd still need to be submitted to the App Store. You'd still need a lot of the hard work that happens within organizations and businesses. So it's not as easy as having loads of different apps that you just pop onto the App Store and you start making money. So I just wanted to call that out and be very clear around it. There are some automation tools that are available, NAN, make.com, Zapier, that make things much easier, but there's still cost. And there's still a huge cost to it. And it's not as easy as plug and play as a lot of them say. So things that you see, like there's a lot of Twitter or X is filled with all these really cool ads. But the problem in that is, and all these mega prompts, the problem with that is it's difficult to make. You can use VO3, but it's very expensive, the Google product. And it's nowhere near as easy as what people think. So my too long didn't read breakdown is, if you get excited by it, definitely be excited, but just curb the enthusiasm and understand that there's a lot more technical aspects to it than what's been made out. And if you are given a prompt and you use one of the tools that someone else has used, it's very likely it'll look very different to what you've seen. So it's great. We're going in the direction it'll be even better, but it's still costly, still technical, and there's still a lot of requirements that you need to take on board and to get anything that's anywhere near successful.
Yeah, I mean, the analogy for me is there is, when you go into somewhere like John Lewis, the television department in John Lewis, they've got these fantastic screens and they're all popping really vibrant colors. And that's because all the TVs have got this kind of demo mode, which the manufacturers turn on. So when it's in the store, it looks really bright and vibrant. Then you get it home and set it up and it's not ever quite that good because it's now in normal mode, because that demo mode would only last 10 minutes if they, a few months if you run it. So it's analogous to that really. When if you're in a mid-level marketing role in an enterprise right now, and the CMO walks in and says, just seen this amazing piece of, video, a video ad or something, and this guy's made it in an afternoon where it would have taken $3.5 million last year. Well, great. But as you say, it's not quite as simple as just coding up a few or prompting a few things and getting to that. There's a lot of steps on the way. That doesn't mean we shouldn't experiment with the level we're at. I guess we're just saying, don't get too disheartened. Don't set expectations too high about what can be achieved in a short time. And don't get too disheartened if there are steps on the way to getting something really, really good, because this is a trial and error area that we're working in here. And as you say, some of those DEMs you see are brilliant, but they have taken a lot of time, effort, and expertise to get there.
Exactly. And one thing I'd say is, if your team comes to you and say, we have this big, brilliant idea, ask them for their business case first, and then do a MVP or a prototype, just to make sure that it is possible, and they're not going to be wasting a lot of time, energy, and resource in it, because even the best developers are falling for some of these big claims that people are making online. But I'd definitely say go experiment and build and test and learn.
Sounds good to me.
So to wrap up, what do we recommend to business leaders, Jonathan?
I think it's a realistic approach, isn't it? I think we continue to experiment. We encourage experimentation. But as we were saying, that some of the shinier objects we'll see demonstrated online by all of the players, they are super shiny and they've been made with a great deal of expertise and effort. And it's not quite as simple as maybe they're trying to indicate, that you just, you write the right prompts and you end up with your 3-minute video of brilliance. It's not, it's a little more complex than that. So let's not get too ahead of ourselves. Let's get too disappointed if we can't achieve that quickly. But that's no reason not to experiment and try to push in the right direction.
Exactly.
All right. Good to see you, my friend.
See you next time.
See you next time.
Thanks for listening today. If you've got any questions or any feedback, have a look in the show notes and we'll happily come back to you.